Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 14th canvassing meeting and regular school board meeting here at Forest View at 6 p.m. First, we're going to call the meeting to order with roll call.
Charles Blackland.
Here.
Kevin Boyle.
Here.
Tom Hagelin.
Here.
Luke Nelson.
Here.
Bob Nystrom.
Here.
Sarah Spear.
Here.
All present.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is right here. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have approval of the agenda as amended. And I'm not sure, Superintendent Hahn, could you tell us what the amendments are? I didn't write those down.
We had many more recognitions to add,
Okay.
so that's been the amendment.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Director Boyles, a second from Director Nystrom. Fun to say that name again. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Agenda is approved. And of course, as always, this meeting is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota statutes. It's being recorded, and the recording will be made available on the school district's website as soon as reasonably possible. Is it also live?
It's live as well.
And it's also live. Okay, and we'll start with the resolution canvassing returns of the votes of the school district for the general election. And after we do that, there's a few in attendance we can say congratulations to. So you can see the resolution there. You can see our two-year candidates and our four-year candidates. And the top two were John Ward and Michelle Brecken in the two-year. And the four-year, the top three were DJ Donlinger, RJ Heidman, and Sarah Spear.
So this is a motion followed by a roll call vote?
Correct.
I'll move that we approve the canvassing of the election returns as presented.
I'll second.
First from Director Boyles, a second from Director Blackland. Any further discussion? I would just like to say congratulations to those in attendance and to Director Spear here up at the table for being elected and re-elected. Any other comments? Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Kevin Boyle.
Yes.
Tom Hagelin.
Yes.
Luke Nelson.
Yes.
Bob Nystrom.
Yes.
Sarah Spear.
Yes.
Charles Blackland.
Yes.
All in favor.
Okay, so that was approved unanimously. So we are now authorized to have the school district clerk certify those results and sign, and that will be completed, and we can adjourn this canvassing meeting. And we'll now adjourn, or start
Need a motion.
the canvassing meeting, and now we will go to the regular school board meeting. And we'll start with recognitions, and we have a lot of recognitions tonight. So maybe we can go around the table. We'll start with Director Spear, reading
Sure.
one each.
Big congratulations to the Brainerd Warrior girls assistant soccer coach, Mike Weisenflue, for being named to the Section 8-3A Assistant Coach of the Year.
Congratulations to Brainerd Warrior Girls Assistant Tennis Coach Chad Anderson for being named the Section 7AA Assistant Coach of the Year.
Congratulations to the Brainerd Warrior Boys football team for finishing the year as the Red Sub-District champions.
And congratulations to the Brainerd Warriors girls cross-country team for finishing as the CLC champions, Section 8 AAA champions, and MSHSL state qualifiers. The state tournament was held November 5th at St. Olaf College, and the team took 8th place in Class AAA. Hannah Dries led the way with a time of 18:34, finishing in 17th place. Team members were Emily Bastian, Julia Rademacher, Maddie Miller, Bridget Collins, Annalise Baird, Donica Ramler, Caitlin Kennedy, Hannah Dries, and Brooke Wentz. Congratulations to all.
And congratulations to the Warrior Girls Swimming and Diving Team for finishing as the Section 8 AA champions. It was fun. I watched that on YouTube. That was really cool. It's the first section win in 22 years. The medley relay advanced with second place and a new school record with Maya Tauchis, Avery Dewar, Mariah Alderson and Isabel Plouffe. 200 free relay sections champions, new school and pool records. Gabrielle Chalupsky, Isabel Plouffe, Scarlett Anderson, Maya Tauchus. And then on the individual side, Maya, again, section runner-up in the 50 freestyle, set a new school record. Avery Dewar, 4th place in the section 100 freestyle, qualified by standard for breaststroke.
Could I use your? Did you go this far? Okay. Congratulations to Izzy Olson for capturing the Section 8AA diving title in Section 8A Driver of the Year. Teammates Brenna Deason and Evie Helsing will be joining Izzy at the MSHSL State Tournament. Brainerd's 4 divers all finished in the top 6 places.
Congratulations to Dan Anderson for being selected 8AA Coach of the Year for swimming.
And adding to the football accolades, congratulations to the Warrior football team for being the North Central Red Sub-District Team Champions, which we mentioned, and the Team Academic All-State Silver.
Congratulations to Coach Jason Freed for being selected as North Central Red Sub-District Coach of the Year, and Assistant Coach Troy Nelson as a North Central Red Sub-District Assistant Coach of the Year as well.
Congratulations to Warrior football players Damian Bento, Dylan Gross, Mitch Wynn, Eli Holtz, Marcelo Getty, Will Iwisco, Josh Albrecht, John Hagan, and Caleb Lang for being selected to the all-district football team.
Wonderful. Congratulations to all. And I have one quick question. Since we have a new pool, are there a lot of new pool records, or does it inherit from the last pool? Does anyone know that?
It should go from the last because it's the same length.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's just exciting to be in the new pool.
Yeah,
So
it's very
packed and loud.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's very exciting we did so
It
well in
was the
swimming and
first time to be
diving.
able to hold that section
Yeah.
championship because it was actually.
Yeah, wonderful,
championship.
wonderful. Okay, I don't have any cards for public input. Is there any public input? Okay, you can come up. I think we maybe forgot the cards, huh?
I can grab it.
Okay. You can fill out a card after.
Okay. Not the first rodeo, I guess, so. 2 minutes, I assume? Right. Oh, 3?
Since you said
We would have did that 2 years, for 2 years.
You brought a donut, it could have been 4.
Right. If only I would have got elected, right? No, I just wanted to come up here and say just how incredibly proud I was to run for a seat on this board. Looking at all the people that are on the board now, some of you leaving, retiring, if you will, from the board. Thank you for your service over the last 2 years. I've been witness to see the negative and the positive things that you guys have endured, and I just want you to know that some of the public understands and wants you to know that we are appreciative of what you do. To the newly elected board members, I'm sure you've done your research, but it's going to be a tough road ahead. There's going to be a lot of obstacles to hurdle over, and I'm going to continue to hopefully collaborate with those board members and whatever it may be. So when I didn't win on the election, I did share something, but I want to share that with everybody else because I think it's great for everybody, whether you're on the board or in the district, to understand that everything doesn't have to be so negative, right? And it's the quote, "Attitude" by Charles Swindoll. "The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts, is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes." So just a reminder that even though things don't go our way, good things are still yet to come and the best is yet to come. So hopefully we can move ISD 181 forward to the future, get rid of the past, and just move forward in a positive way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for all the work you've done with the district in the last year. Okay, as long as you fill out one afterwards, come on up. You can come up, though, and talk.
Hello, I'm Susanna Lamuska, and I'm an advocate in the area for our kids. And I just wanted to say, I don't know that I'll make the next meeting, but thank you, all of you, for your commitment to our students. I've been able to work with several of you guys. I hate to be the one that brings issues at times, but I do appreciate all of your willingness to take the emails and the phone calls and to work together towards a better future for our kids. And so if I don't get a chance, thank you for your service. Thank you for your commitment and your time. And congratulations to everybody that got elected. And I do look forward to working together collaboratively to improve ISD 181 and make a better future for our kids. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing no more, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the regular school board meeting October 10th.
Move to approve.
Second.
First from Director Hagelin, a second from Director Boyles. Any further discussion? You guys, I don't see you guys up here, so it's so strange. It's like, okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
First from Director Spear, a second from Director Nystrom. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we'll go up right into new business, and we'll have a Blueprint 181 project update. Working on our last project.
There we go. How'd you get it? PDF right there. Full screen. Probably not important.
It'd be weird to have a discussion this way.
Why didn't it open?
I don't know. It's up there. There we go. Okay. Good evening. Mark Needham with ICS. Pardon the technical difficulties as they usually seem to show up for me. So, here to present on the project update for the Blueprint 181 projects. So, as mentioned, we're down to the last one here. We have a project update here for the Washington Educational Services Building. As you can see in the pictures here, interior demo is underway. So we've removed the ceilings in the first and second floor, started tearing down the overhead mechanical systems that are above them as well. Locker removal is completed actually at this point now, so we're starting to get into the mechanical systems within the locker chases, as we're calling them. So behind the lockers is where a lot of the mechanical systems are going to run to feed the first and second floor. So we've started getting into those. And we've also started the bathroom demo. So you can see up there, we've taken down some of the tiny wall partitions that were in there before to get prepared to install the full-size wall partitions. Other notable items that we've taken care of, we've removed the playground equipment, and that's been stored as well. So we're kind of getting buttoned up for winter, even though we kind of just got started. So any questions on the project?
I do.
Yes.
So, first of all, the locker removal, are those going to be recycled?
Yes, so on the first floor, we're going to reinstall them.
Oh.
And then if any of those are damaged beyond repair, because there's a lot of them that are rusted out in the bottom and are showing their age and wear and tear, we'll replace those with lockers from second floor. And then on the second floor, those walls are actually going to get infilled. So we're going to maintain lockers for students on first floor if needed.
To add to that, Director Nystrom, there's on the west side of the first floor was used to be our Fun and Friends operation. We're maintaining 7 classes on the west side and 2 classrooms on the east side for early childhood operations moving forward. So it's a combination of some lockers, as Mark said, are going to go back in for operations. Other spaces are going to be repurposed for display cases, tag boards, other things like that that are better suited for the offices that are adjacent to them.
And the only other question, you might have answered this before, but asbestos removal, I've had a lot of people ask me, is it all going to be out of Washington?
It's not all going to be out, but the stuff that is in an area where we're doing construction is being removed. Washington has had a ton of asbestos abatement already done to it, even before we started this project. I would say, I'm going to ballpark some numbers for you here. We were probably 90+% complete with asbestos abatement. We're probably more towards 95 or 97% now. There is asbestos in on some of the piping behind the walls, but that's not uncommon. As long as it's not disturbed, we're just fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All
Well,
right.
one, Mark, now we're
yeah,
getting to the end of this. You can admit it, it's a lot more fun to tear all this stuff out than it is to do anything else, right?
Actually, if you're asking my personal opinion,
Yeah.
I like seeing something go back together more than tearing it apart.
Okay, because I watch a lot of HGTV, and it seems like they're always having a lot more fun.
Yeah, well, on a commercial scale, it's a lot more fun when you get to use the big
It's
equipment.
personal
too,
choice,
so.
man.
One thing we should have done was to take up a district-wide guess at how many pencils we found behind the lockers in
Yeah.
Westby. I bet we found probably in the thousands of pencils that have been stuffed through the vent holes in the back of those lockers.
And
So
notes.
it is really neat to see some of the old documentation that is behind there, some of the old plays and the old musicals and.
Did John Erickson come collect it all?
Some of it
There
was
may
saved.
have been a
Yep.
few things grabbed on the way by, yes.
That could be a new revenue stream for the school
A little
district.
blackmail.
Yeah.
Vintage pencils.
No, thanks a lot. It's exciting to watch this unfold.
All right, the next item here, the Welcome Center layout update, or essentially the PR4, which we've been working on here for quite a while, to update or make some updates to the Welcome Center and the admin spaces. So just to give a little context to this, after bid day, we were requested to look at some of the layouts of the Welcome Center and then address some of the needs for the admin team on second floor. And then, so the next 2 pages here of the updated layouts are going to be the changes that we've made to the design after bid day. So to talk briefly here about the Welcome Center, a couple of the notable changes. We've updated what used to be a kind of a multi-purpose reception room and turned that into more of a reception area for the Welcome Center to help with workflow in that space. Relocated a couple offices and conference rooms, and then updated some safe and secure entrance elements to essentially help simplify some wayfinding. I'm assuming there's more you want to add to that?
Yeah, really, we're taking the 2 entrances on the north side of the building and making the current accessible entrance the main entrance to the building. As Superintendent Hahn took over her role, there was some feedback that we worked together on, just some things that we thought would function and flow better, and we worked those into this design here. Shows the superintendent's office on the first floor by the Welcome Center so that she can be in proximity to new families coming into the district. And again, maintaining the rest of the first floor design throughout, other than, again, as Mark said, just expanding on that Welcome Center idea. Having food service and transportation down with the Welcome Center.
All right. Second floor for the admin layout updates that we made.
If you want, I can kind of touch on that.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So for the second floor, really through the initial design of the Westby project, we didn't add any sort of administrative office area changes to the project, right? We were concerned about our budget. We wanted to make sure that we addressed the Welcome Center and the indoor air quality issues at Westby first and foremost. We had fantastic bid day results. Based on that, some of the conversations we had at the project oversight level, we thought it would be a good idea to go out and get a couple options for us to look at for adding some of those in here. And what you'll see tonight is a couple options for that. Again, it's It's getting HR, a newly developed HR department together as one team. It's getting the business office together as one team. And then with the changes recently with the teaching and learning department kind of changing and growing, really getting them in close proximity with their staff so that they can have a really great working relationship. And so a lot of that detail is in the drawing here, but essentially that's what we did on second floor, is really put those offices together so that they can be cohesive as a unit and be with their staff. Okay.
All right, let's talk pricing here real quick. So,
Zoom in for it.
Yeah, I'm
That's a
trying
little
to
hard
get there.
touchscreen, you can zoom in.
There we go. All right, so pricing, what I have up here in front of us is the total project cost for this, which includes the construction portion of it, as you can see there in section 5, but it also contains some of the other items that we're used to seeing. So some permit and state plan review fees, knowing that we will need to go back to the state to have them review the drawings, and there'll be some cost incurred there, so we estimated that. The fees, services, and budgets line item, that includes things, specifically the design cost to redo the layout for this. It also includes other consultant fees like ICS, and then also includes general condition costs that go along with that as well, so porta potties. The construction costs, these are the 4 line items from the contractors that we have working with us. This is the pricing they've provided us. Now, we asked them to turn this pricing around pretty quick, and we're reviewing some of these items with them now just to double check that we don't have anything doubled up that shouldn't be. We're accounting for all the deducts that we should be, because we took some scope out of the Welcome Center, for example, a concrete ramp, and just making sure that we've correctly identified all the scope with them. And that'll play into what we're asking for action tonight. And then finally, the construction contingency line there, we're carrying the amount that we've carried for this job so far, which is an 8% contingency, just because it's a really historic building, which is a nice way to say there's a lot of things in the walls that you don't know what you're gonna find. So, any questions on the pricing?
I think someplace we get into approving this PR number 4, so I don't know if we're going to do that now or.
Yeah, I think it is now. It's after we ask our questions, yep. Do you,
Well, I don't have any questions, but just for, so this was discussed at the last BOT meeting, and then we connected later to kind of go through what the changes are, and I think at the end of the day, looked at putting a ceiling to approve with a not to exceed amount.
correct.
And I had floated a number of 420 and see if you can't drive it down even from there. So even though we're at 458, but I think there's some fees and you know, as you were saying, they kind of had a rush to get through this.
Yeah, if you don't, Director Hagelin, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, as Mark said, you know, we really turned this around quickly with our contractor teams. When we do that, we always get round magnitudes on these change events. And Mark and Damien and the crew do a great job of going back to the construction teams and really saying, hey, you know, I'm not at 50,000, I'm at 41,500, and we can take and find 8,500 bucks here and there, and we can really work that number down. And Mark's currently in that process right now. And again, we asked him to turn it around really quick, because what may not seem like too far away, you know, what might seem like a long timeline, you know, the construction timeline of 6 months for 7 months for Wesby, unfortunately, lead times are really long on a lot of equipment. And so we wanted to get this in front of you so that we can get momentum going and hopefully get approval from you to get this PR in action and get stuff on order so that we can get it here and not push that deadline or that finish line out any further. So,
And we were expecting the fees to go down a little bit too, weren't we? We had talked about that.
yeah, correct. Yep, we're working on that with ICS, the other consultants, and we have, again, we've got general conditions in there, we've got contingency in there. Those are all things that as we go through this project, we can hopefully drive down.
So that might be a good idea to lower that number by a little bit. What we approve a maximum? Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think, you know, as we talked, I mentioned 420, but it was 425, and probably can do better. Do you want a motion?
Sure.
So I would be, make a motion that we accept the layout design changes to Wesby as presented and a build out not to exceed 425,000.
I'll second.
Is that you, Charles? Thank you. Okay, further discussion?
Not to get any further into the weeds necessarily, but since the last time this was brought before us in terms of the broader scope, have you guys seen any differentiation in terms of inflationary pressures on some of the materials and stuff, or is that kind of holding firm on what we would have thought when this was scoped out?
I am seeing some price increases, but it's hard to give examples, but for example, I'll give one anyway. Carpet was estimated at a certain unit rate. I think I had $4.28 or something like that to track, and it came in at $5 a square foot. So I'm still continuing to see some of that. The bigger concern, or I shouldn't say the bigger concern, the other part of that is the procurement piece of it. Those timelines are growing at a bigger rate than the inflation is. I mean, it's getting astronomical. I've got stuff that's not going to show up until late summer next year, and we've already ordered it. So that's the tough part. Yeah.
Yeah, we've heard deliverables that what used to be 16 weeks are now 50 weeks. So we're really chasing an unknown out there, and it doesn't feel like it should be. It feels like we should be beyond a pandemic, but we're still seeing pandemic type responses on lead times on equipment and stuff. And I think that's just a workforce availability thing. And I would say that's more of a driver than cost is.
Okay, so not to put words in your mouth, but the larger overarching concern now is supply chain issues and getting these things, and cost is really going to fall
and
pretty
really
much where we think it is.
That's the basis of our urgency here to get this in front of you sooner than later, is to get this going and get us moving in the right direction. And more than likely when we sit down and say, okay, now we've got a PR, let's finalize these numbers. Now these contractors are going to look at it and say, we weren't just trying to waste time here on an idea that might not pass. Now let's for sure, if we for sure pass it, then they got something to work against.
Okay, that's all I had. I was just trying to make sure we're managing the expectations for those that don't have the inside info on this stuff.
Yep.
And beyond the supply chain timeline, does any of the change in the plan or having to send it back to the state again, is that going to impact timeline in general?
Not from a schedule standpoint, because we did create a schedule that accounts for this work to take place, so that will fall within the project timeline. The plan review is not as critical because it'll be a addition to the review that we're already doing, so that kind of helps with the timeline. They're already familiar with the job. And also by the time we start putting things back together, we'll have all that complete. What these changes kind of help with too is where we demo some walls and don't, because that's where some of the early changes take place, is in the demolition.
Gotcha. Thank you.
It's always quicker when you have an already approved project and you're doing another change on the backside. You get a little bit more expedited response time from some of these agencies. So.
Okay. Any other questions? So we have a motion from Director Hagelin and a second from Director Blackglance to approve this updated design at Wesby for a value not to exceed $425,000. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Then we'll go on to our presentation, and we're going to talk about our strategic plan. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Hahn.
I don't know that this is much of a presentation as much as it is a discussion. I appreciated the feedback at our last board meeting, and so I felt I had been having lots of discussions and reading lots and talking to lots of people, so trying to capture all of that into one concise document for all of you and for people to review. And so what you can see in this rubric that was created, I'm not going to drive it too much so that our people don't get too dizzy, but at the bottom of the document are the questions that I utilized to interview and talk with consultants and agencies who help with strategic planning. And you can see kind of how those have partnered through the document. And then at the bottom, really then gave lots of exemplars and examples of their work. So my hope is based on being able to share that information with you all. The thought process would be, and again, this is dependent on what you'd like to do, is to recommend that a couple of the consultants and teams come in to then present to you in December, and then to make a decision based on that further in-depth information that they can share. So really, based on everything that was there, do you have any questions about what was brought forth? But really, there's a wide range of options. They have a range of expenses. They have a range of expertise or specialties. They all have something a little bit unique that makes them stand apart as a consulting group that works for strategic planning. I can tell you that my priorities as a superintendent, I really want to have an active opportunity where our community can be involved, where our community can give input, where we can have focus groups with those stakeholders, both internally and externally. I really want a consultant that can work with our administration team to make sure that we're putting forth a strategic plan and a roadmap that we can accomplish and see ourselves reaching those goals as we work hard to get there. So those were the priorities I set. And I would say that all of these people that are before you and agencies that are before you have that capability, some at a larger scale than others.
Well, Dr. Hahn, I would like to say thank you for taking this on. I remember back to the Jerry Walseth years. Jerry wanted a strategic plan. And then each subsequent superintendent wanted one, and it just never happened. And I know Tom got really frustrated because he was very serious about it, and we should be serious about it. So you're doing the hard work, and I know you have so much else on your plate, so thank you for what you're doing.
You're welcome. The good news is we're all going to get ready to do the hard work.
But now Tom's going to be gone, so yeah.
Trust me, he's going to get signed up to lead a focus group. I haven't told him that yet, but it's coming. No, but there's lots of opportunities. It just depends on how, to me, the biggest difference is how they engage our stakeholders and then how that information gets portrayed out. Some specialize in being able to help us develop a communications plan that helps us get that information out, that helps us then continue to make sure that we're all having our eyes on that strategic plan, that it's at the forefront of our work, and that it's something that's updated annually rather than something that's done, like a one and done. That's not the intent. And I really feel like we've identified some consultants that have that capability to help us do that.
The one, just to get down into the weeds a little bit, the partner ED one. Oh, wait, which, that one?
Partner Ed?
It was the Nexus one. That was a superintendent-led process, and I don't
Correct.
think we want that. Because
They do like to have, in his sense, and he's a former superintendent, the gentleman that runs Nexus Solutions, he really likes to have that just to connect and put yourself in that leadership role as a superintendent's leading the district. In all agencies, they'll have the superintendent and the board leading that
Correct,
process,
yeah.
but that's his priority. There's a lot of things from Nexus that will fall back to the administrative team.
more than the other ones.
More than the other ones.
So, and I know you, on the MSBA one, you talked to some people that used MSBA. Have you done that with any of the other ones?
I have. And so, when you look at Dr. Sherry Wilkins and Brian Dietz is the current superintendent in Walker. So he's been able to lead strategic planning, and he partners with Dr. Wilkins. TeamWorks is Ray Queener, and that's basically based upon Cheeseborough's work. So that's a large group of consultants, so you can actually choose from those group of consultants.
Where are they based?
All over. So
they wouldn't be flying in because they had expenses, travel expenses.
there's some that are out of state. A lot of them are within state, but some are out of state when you look at Wisconsin and Iowa. And Partner Ed is fairly new. They are a little bit unique where when they look at the team that they're building, they come with somebody from finance, communications, and the superintendency. TeamWorks has something very similar. All of them can do a type of hybrid where they can engage people both in person and virtual. MSBA prefers to do a lot of things virtual, so then they're always accessing people in person and virtually. But then the district admin team would be leading those sessions with MSBA coming in virtually.
Thank you for digging into this. It was exciting for me to look through this because I enjoy this. And I heard you say your priorities in this, and one of them was making sure that we engage community. And I think that has to be one of the top priorities because I feel like we all have to be at the table and buy into this. So I think that's spot on. The other piece, the lens I was looking through when I was looking at these is where and how, getting back to Director Hagelin's question at the last meeting, where and how can we build in accountability? And when I was looking through the plans, some of them were more practical than others. I don't think this is work that we want to create on top of the work we're already doing. We want to incorporate what we're already doing, and I loved how MSBA did that with their plans. They brought in pieces of the world's best workforce. That's stuff we're already doing. How does that fit into our strategic direction? And so I liked how they had dates and actionable items built in. And I also saw some of that in the partner ed work as well, which I was impressed with. And I was a little bit nervous about the ones that didn't have communications tied to it, because I think that's going to be a huge piece. Being able to get the community involved is just communication after communication, clarity after clarity, so that they can stay involved with that project. So I rated that really high when I saw it, and those were the two that I saw that came to the top for me on those things that I was looking for.
Yeah, those were the two that said stakeholders are included in.
They all engage
They all-
stakeholders at different levels. They just engage them in very different ways. Partner ed talked about really being able to have access to some software for crowdsourcing and being able to grab large data points. So again, when you look at our district, we're a very large district. When you look at our community too, we cover 516 square miles. When we say we want to communicate and have our community involved, that's one of the things I really pressed as I talked to each of the heads of these consulting firms, is just how do you engage them? How can you ensure that we keep them engaged? But the other part is then that transparency. How do you put then our plan back out? And to me, I like the practicality too. It does not need to be, things can look nice, but if they're not actionable, they're going to be very, very pointless in my opinion.
Yeah.
With the work that we need to do.
And I think it doesn't look very accessible when you look at some of those plans, and they're pages and pages long, and that's why the one-pagers really appeal to me. And I'm kind of a graphical kind of person, so it really appeals to me, but I would rather have some of that built into the back end to refer to, because if it's going to be a tactical plan that we want people to be held accountable to, it has to be more than 3 bullets that are up for interpretation, which is great. And that's definitely how we want to communicate with the community, so we all can stay aligned, right? Because it's the success of any organization is 1% vision and 99% alignment. And the more we can get behind that, the better.
Again, like they said, each of them have their strengths and how they portray that out. So if you go to Teamworks, they really have 4 different, and I put that in their exemplars. They talk about the daily desired experience. They're really getting all that input on what should be the daily experience of all of our students who walk through the doors. They have that vision card. Then they really narrow it down to that operational plan, and then also creating a strategic roadmap. Dr. Wilkins and Brian Dietz, they really have that dashboard or that metric system and how you can create that into annual reports. Partner Ed, which I said is fairly new, because they're very experienced and seasoned, but they're new firm, Partner Ed, coming away from School IQ. They have a unique piece called Portrait of a Graduate. So what should every graduate look like when they're leaving our school district? And Nexus also does a lot of that dashboard work and that metric work that we could review and look at as well. So again, there's a full menu of options. I really feel comfortable that they can gauge our stakeholders.
And to your point, I think there's things that I loved about all. I loved how Teamworks put together their scope of work, and it was who's responsible, how, when, where, the time. I loved that, but I thought the deliverables weren't as strong, or the outcome of that work wasn't as strong as some of the others.
Are they all similar in cost?
No, the costs are listed. They really are different in their cost, and a lot of them then can I gotta go back, sorry, there you go.
It's on the last
They
page
range
of
anywhere from $5,000 to $31,000 plus. And it really, some of them are fixed, so if you look at MSBA has that very fixed. It's all inclusive in that cost. So as Dr. Wilkins and Brian Dietz, when you look at the rest of them, they vary based on kind of a menu of options you can pick, not to exceed, and then some of them will have some travel expenses or lodging expenses.
So a couple of lenses that I looked at this through, right? You can only apply what you know to a situation, and this thing is, I thought it was an IKEA instruction booklet first, but as I read it more.
Easy to assemble.
Yeah, exactly. What I would say is this, it's extraordinarily important that we have 6 sets of eyes on this. And then beyond that, to get, to December and have a chance between now and December to whatever we end up determining to do tonight, that we get that communicated as forcefully and I hate the word transparently because that's like overused, but as much as we can to gather feedback. I think I'm a little less concerned maybe than some of the other board members are about the actual physical constitution of what the deliverable looks like at the end of the initial project, right? To me, that's a to-do list. And it can take any number of forms. It can be an online dashboard. It can be the 3-ring binder that Director Haglund talked about at the last meeting. It can be weekly Zoom calls. It can be any number of different things. The devil to me is in the execution and the accountability that goes along with the execution or lack thereof, right? And I think you could apply that to any of the deliverables that I saw from any of these vendors. I don't know that anybody stood out to me to jump above anybody else. So then the second lens that I look through is what I think of when I think about software development. There are 2 schools of software development. I apologize for the digression, but there's what I would refer to as waterfall development, and then there's what they call agile development. In the waterfall world, you build a piece of software, whether that's an app or a website or an application that drives something on Amazon Web Services or whatever. You build it, you have a project scope, the project's over, you're done, and then you let it sit there until something breaks, and then you go back and you fix it. Agile is you're changing the tires on the bus while you're driving it constantly. That is a project in motion that you're always doing. And as I understand the way that both Directors Haglund and Spear talked about this at the last meeting, what I'm looking for from these vendors is somebody that's going to give us the tools to be agile and to not suddenly wake up one morning and realize that 30% of this thing got out of date because we didn't have our eye on the right ball, or we got too tied up in the execution. And I think community engagement, which is another buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, is really important. I think it's ultra critical on the front end, right? Because we've got to understand what people want from the school district to develop a strategic plan that delivers it. Once that happens, then I think community engagement and involvement is still key, but it's not as critical in my mind as it is on the front end. It takes on a cadence and whatever. And I think that was as I was looking at this, I was trying to see, what does that look like? And how can we make the most of that and really garner the best expertise from people in the community that might be able to pitch in on different things like this, like retired board members, for example, stuff like that. So I know some of that's similar to how you look at it. I guess my other question then relative to all that is, did anybody feel like they had a deliverable at the end that they kind of just deliver it and they walk away?
No, that was actually, I appreciated Director Spear's question at the end of our last board meeting was really about that ongoing coaching or the coaching throughout the process. And again, the ones that we've brought forward have that capability. Again, they just bring different people to the table. So when you look at, a team of consultants, how well-rounded are they, what are their expertise? If you look at TeamWorks really starts more of an internal, they go classroom. They called it, I gotta remember the name, so classroom to, Ray's going to be upset that I didn't remember. Because we talked about classroom to boardroom, thank you. So they looked at that process of going in and out and starting some of that groundwork and then getting more engaged with the community. So how they maybe do the steps of the process are a little bit different. Thank you, Director Spear.
Dr. Hahn, I think you just found your project manager. Director Boyles.
I can 100% assure you that would be a really bad idea.
And the other thing, in reference, when you look at the strategic plans, all of, strategic planning in the past doesn't really exist in that sense anymore. These are not things that end up being in binders or being, 3 inches that never get acted upon. If you look, they're very concise. They're very action-oriented. They're meant to be reviewed and updated consistently. It's not meant to set the plan 5 years down the road and then wait 5 years to go back at it. It is really meant to be almost like the to-do checklist, but a constant measurement of the progress you're making. And different, as you read through it, people talked about finding those little spots where you can celebrate, with your internal stakeholders, celebrate with the community. One of the pieces too, which I appreciated from Director Nelson's feedback, is really the administrative team that we're gonna work with. Our administrative team will be very involved in the strategic planning because people doing the heavy lifting are going to be the administrators working with our students in the district when it comes to strategic planning and the directors that are running departments. So they will be key to some of those focus areas of really honing in partnership with the board and the superintendent then leading that plan.
Heidi, thank you for taking the time to interview 5 or 6 others. And I think, is it the intent to bring in 2?
That would be my thought is,
present?
yep, every individual and group here said they'd be happy to come and provide more direct information to the board.
And since you're closest to them after visiting with them, who do you recommend? What 2 would you bring forward?
I think based on the priorities we've set in the conversations that I've had with you as the board members, MSBA, which has been just a strong fast with strategic planning, and the other one that seems to be rising up is Partner Ed, just with the menu of options that they can provide and how they could potentially be more innovative in some of that engagement and output that we would have from the plan.
And as MSBA, have they been doing this for 2.5 years, or it's just that in the last 2.5 years?
In the last 2.5 years, they've helped 31 districts.
Okay, but they've been doing this for years.
For a long, long time. They were kind of the gold star and the standard in education, but TeamWorks is also, if you look at lots of processes in strategic planning, TeamWorks is the same. They've been around. TeamWorks, I think, has the capability and strength to really bring around we were looking at a significant change. If you look at Cheeseboro's work, it's a lot of that change piece and leading change and implementing change. I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we have to identify the state of our state, what are our needs, and then start heading in that direction.
The one thing I liked about TeamWorks, and actually MSBA and Nexus were the ones I had starred, but the one thing I really liked about TeamWorks is that desired daily experiences. It wasn't just for students, though. It was for students, for staff, and for families. And I think we should keep that in mind, that idea in mind with whoever we pick, because that just really...
They all have their unique pieces that they bring to the table.
Too, and that resonated with me. Plus, I like the idea that they've worked out of state as well.
Yep.
But it's very difficult. It's very difficult for me to assess off of here which 2 to bring forward, and I would just rely on you making the best choice, because these are only words on paper. I can't tell. My recommendation would be whatever you recommend.
And they had good examples, those 2. So.
Actually, everybody we worked with, they've been more than accommodating to get information, to get exemplars, to get more materials. They've taken text and phone calls as we've tried to put together a more simplified rubric. And again, many of these, prior to the last board meeting, I had been in conversation with. I just hadn't portrayed all that information back out. So again, learning ways to communicate out.
And I think Director Hagelin is spot on in saying, I'd love to hear your recommendation for these 2, knowing that, the front end process, the creation of this it's going to be a good experience for us, no matter which one we pick. Just engaging, everyone in this room and the community and coming together on a direction for the teams. But then on the other side of that is having to execute. And so if you feel like there is a partner among those that you'd love to help work with on the accountability and the execution and implementation, that would be a good teammate. I'm all ears on that, because that's going to be the hard part. Yeah. Well, it's all going to be hard, but.
Yeah, I think there's MSBA just has had that driven experience with public schools. Just in my learning and conversations with Partner Ed, I am very curious, and I get a little bit more curious as they explain the team of experts that they're bringing in, especially when they talk finance and they talk communications, as well as that superintendent experience and leadership experience. To me, I think if those 2 are brought forward, you're going to hear two different approaches, hopefully to get to the same. But I feel that they have the best capability to reach a broader range of our community and to get that active engagement with our community.
I appreciate that. And what I would say is that's what I would hope for, is that we get contrast with whoever sits here in a month. And, I harken back to the Performing Arts Center first round of names where it was, gray, charcoal, or dove gray to pick from. The idea that we have contrasting styles to pick from. Because like me, my default setting is I always want to go for the unicorn disruptor that's out there, because that's where my heart is. But the idea of having somebody that's more classic like MSBA and somebody that's a little more, like Director Hagelin said, that branches outside of Minnesota, and kind of compare and contrast what that looks like, I think will be good. So I'm very comfortable with your recommendations as well.
With my wife, Catherine, when we travel, one of the things that she'll encourage me with is that I have a good memory when I travel. And that's one of the things, as we've been married for 17 years, I take with pride. And I like traveling without having to ask questions, and maybe that's me being a male. But my point is that that's all fine and dandy when you're cruising somewhere on a weekend. But when the chips are on the table and I gotta get my child to a basketball or a football event down in the Twin Cities, and I don't know exactly where I'm going or I've never been there before, it's important now that we have things like GPS, that I can drive and I can keep my eye on to know that I'm going the right route, that I'm plugged in. And as the experience that I've had for working with higher education now for 25 years is the strategic plans that I've worked as part of that were best were those that allowed me to stay plugged in and to help me see where I'm plugged into the overall plan of the institution. So just like GPS, I need to be able to see as an employee where my role is fitting in every day, everything I do. And that helps in terms of motivation. It helps alleviate frustration. And it always gives me a place to get back to neutral, just like a good GPS is able to do. You don't want me in my job or in downtown Twin Cities to be freewheeling, trying to go off memory, or that I can figure it out. And we don't want to do that with our employees. So we need to make sure that we're providing them a way that they can stay plugged in and see how they tie into the strategic plan and the overall goals and the mission of our district. So do you feel that these entities are able to draw our employees to that conclusion consistently? I see a lot of talk in here about good leadership and about coaches that might help us down the road. But where the proof is in the pudding for me is the faculty, the staff, that they remain plugged in, and every day they can see where they fit within that strategic plan. And I'm not really seeing, at least from the way I've read it, a lot of this attending to that. Not calling it into question, but it does cause a question in my mind of how are we going to ensure that?
And I think that's, and each one of these that are before you, when they talk about focus groups, so they have the stakeholder, internal and external engagement, they get that, then they really dive into focus groups. And all of them have identified a focus group that brings in the staff, that brings in the administration, to really have those discussions, as well as then community members and parents, and student voices. So if you read through, some of them are stronger at accessing student voices than others. So really, if you look at that comprehensive, that's where the two that I've talked about really try to draw that, but they all have a sense of that. And we have shared this out with the administrative team, seeking feedback from them as well, if there's one that they're feeling it's rising to the top, to bring that forth to you. But no, that's, this is their expertise, and they've been successful in doing it. Again, I'm just trying to say, how does that success then partner with Brainerd Public Schools for the best fit? And I like the teams that have a little bit more comprehensiveness to them, to be able to have, again, you can write that plan, but how does it impact communications? How does it impact finance? How does it impact administration? How is it impacting our students? And so, but all of those here I really feel comfortable with.
I guess my last thought on the point that I was trying to make, Heidi, is, or Dr. Hahn, is that it really comes down to aftercare. Is my question is going to be to these two. I'm fine with supporting MSB and Partner Ed. I would agree, they seem pretty strong. But I guess a question that I would like asked, or at least I could ask it, I suppose, is how are we going to provide that aftercare to the faculty and staff, to how they're going to remain plugged into this strategic plan?
Yeah. I think it really becomes, and if you look at this, some of them gave examples where it's the one-pagers in every classroom, and it's I mean, it's at the front of our work, so it is that communications plan. How are we then rolling this back out to our faculty and to our administration? But to me, that goes back to the focus groups that will be held and the leadership, because they're going to be identifying, is this, you know, is this just pie in the sky, or is this something that we can set it as a goal, and then how do we backtrack and backwards map to get to that goal? So I do, and every of the 5 that are in front, I would say all of them have that capability to really push to make sure that it can stay in the front and it can be actionable. But to me, the key will be the focus groups and really having the administrative team, because again, the heavy lifting is going to come with the administrative team, working with the faculty, communicating with our parents and our students. Good question.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question on this, but it is being proposed to, it sounds like, to bring 2 people or 2 of these firms back. I know it would delay things a month, but I just personally don't feel right in making that decision in December and then saying good luck, you know, because only 2 of the 4.
Well, it'll be
No,
4
4
of the
of the
4, 4 of the 4 next month, because we'll have 2 new board members next month.
Okay, that's right. It just.
So, and
And 3 of the 4 are here listening to the presentation, and they have access to the document.
They're all sleeping, but
They're, thanks, Bob.
Okay, so there, yeah, that's the good.
Yeah.
4, okay.
And I think, you know, in talking with the 5 that I brought forward too, they're all available to kind of stay on that timeline. Ideally, by the end of January, we really want to start hitting this process and start gathering that input, because it'll align if we can wrap this up and kind of have that roadmap done by the first part of June. Our leadership team goes into a retreat towards the end of June, where this can really then become the focus of our work. When you say rubber hitting the road and keeping us going in the right direction, it's a great starting point for us to launch that as well. But again, all 5 of them have the capability to do that.
And Director Spear isn't on the board next month, but I'm sure she will be here and we'll welcome her input.
So I'll maybe tag on to what Director Haglund said, and I'd say I had the same thought you did about the whole idea that it's like, okay, this group makes a decision and then hands the baton to a new group, or what will be largely constituted of 4 new board members, right? But what I would say on the flip side of that, as I'm playing devil's advocate in my own head, is right next to me, right here, this constitutes a tremendous amount of collective board experience on how the decisions that are made at this table impact downstream through a superintendent and through whatever. So I'd say that it creates at least an equal argument for doing it sooner rather than later, when you couple that with the need to get it going ASAP.
And I like it starting in January, right away when the new
Yeah,
board
I mean, I'm sort of ambivalent on either route. I'm more concerned about losing another month than I am really about who's saddled with the decisions. I mean, because the new board members are going to be up to their elbows in the process once the process starts anyway.
I don't have any problem making a decision.
But I think we should ride the collective, and I'll throw Director Blacklance in there too with 4 years of experience. We should be riding the collective experience that you guys bring to the table that we won't have access to in 2 months. Because I don't know if the public really understands when you're not looking at what's happening right here, right now at these meetings, the amount of knowledge that we lose when these 2 in particular move on down the road on us here in a couple of months. And I think we should take advantage of it while we've got it.
And I would say all of the members that are presented have the expertise of, you know, really understanding the role of the board and the work that the board will do in the strategic planning process. So from new board member to experience, so I'm very comfortable with all 5 that would have that capability.
I was impressed with the exemplars on a lot of them. So.
Again, I think we brought forward a strong options.
Oh, I was going to tag on that too. I don't think pricing should matter that much. I think we pick a vendor that's going to do what we need to do. And, you know, if we're shopping in the $5 bin on Black Friday, that's a bad way to pick a consultant.
No, and I would say they're all fairly reasonable. I didn't see any that have gone skyrocketed out of the park, so.
So would someone like to make a motion?
Let me make sure we word it right. I will move to approve Superintendent Hahn to bring forward MSBA and partner Ed for more detailed presentations at the December board meeting.
I'll
Second.
Oh, go ahead, Bob. First from Director Boyles, a second from Director Nystrom. Further discussion? No, I'm excited for this process.
Me too. It's gonna be a lot of work, but it'll be fun.
Thank you for all your work on this.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, I'm going to invite Kathy and Nick to talk about the school farm and the greenhouse out there. We have a request to renew a one-year lease with them for the next year at the cost of $2. And I guess, Mr. Reed, are you here too? Are you going to join them?
He's over there.
Where is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to join him? Okay. You'll have to stand, I guess.
Do you see what I see?
I know.
I
just wanna say-
our favorite presentation every year.
Before they start, I want to say that given that Thursday is a very bad day for me, that this 55-plus thing is speaking right to me, as I will turn 55 on Thursday.
Oh, we might have to get you a box of donuts.
So I feel I should get more donuts than Director Blacklands.
But I have an even bigger one on Saturday.
Wow.
You do,
Big
yes, you
week.
I do.
We figured this was good for extra time.
Okay, I'm Kathy Tusa,
And I'm Nick Rangel.
and Nick and I both serve on the board at the Senior Center, and we are both heavily involved in the plant sale project using the greenhouse. We're very proud of the center and what it has to offer for seniors in our community. We have art classes and a book club and a library and DVD exchange and card games, dinners, movies, exercise rooms, not to mention donuts and coffee. And we do receive funding from the city of Brainerd through a referendum dating back to the 1980s. But because of some changes that were made this year, we're going to be losing some of that funding. But we do already fundraise over half of our income ourselves through various projects. Donuts is the highest fundraiser, and the plant sale is the next. So it's very important to the operation of the center.
As far as the plant sale itself, this year's sales inventory showed over 1,000 tomato plants of 13 different varieties, some 800 pepper plants, 7 varieties, 15 varieties of herbs, 10 varieties of hostas, 14 varieties of annuals, flowers, 19 varieties of perennials, 11 varieties of cole crops, the squash, pumpkins, melons, and cucumbers. And in addition to the individual plants, we make up herb gardens, floral baskets and gardens, and combinations, tomatoes and herb gardens. We start seeds at the center in February. We have a plant room, we call it, up there with growing lights. By mid-March, we need to use the greenhouse. The plants are ready to grow. We're out there on a daily basis until about the 3rd week in May, when we move the thousands of plants to the center, where we set up 18 by 30 foot canopies for our 3-day sale. We have a list of about 30 volunteers with a few additional individuals with trailers to help move the plants. Another group that helps is cashiers during our sale days. We also have business helpers, Crow Wing Power, Little Farm Market, Wild Rice Depot, Corner Store, and the school district with the use of the greenhouse.
Before we had the greenhouse, we tried to start plants at home, grow them at the center, and it made for a very small sale. So the greenhouse is really important to us, and we're so grateful. We've had the use of it, I think, now for 10 years. And it's been great, and we're here tonight asking for your approval for next year.
Thank you. I think this is one of our easier action items.
I do have one question. Director Thesey, I always remember this was $1, not $2. Is there a reason why we doubled their rent?
Well, you heard Director Boyles' comments earlier about inflation. That's probably what we're seeing here today too, so.
And by the way, we don't always do this, but
Oh my gosh.
The business services director is right down there. I'm sure she'll work it out. Directors, as you know, we brought, last month of the month, I think it was 2 months ago, we brought forward a lease renewal for the property at, formerly called the High School Farm, out on Highway 25 and TC Road. From the Crow Wing County Board of Directors, obviously they would like us to make a decision on that. We're talking strategic plan. One piece of the strategic plan would be our facilities planning moving forward. We did sign a 1-year lease extension, so that's what we would be able to offer to the center here tonight, would be to extend that to the same terms as what we have, unless we decide to work something out with Crow Wing County moving forward for a continued lease. But we do have a 1-year extension through December 31st, 2023 for that property.
I'll make the motion. So I'll make the motion to approve to renew a 1-year lease agreement at the ISD 181 School Farm for 1 year starting January 1st, 23 to 12/31/23 with the center for a cost of $2.
I'll second.
The first from Director Nystrom, second from Director Spear. Any further discussion? I would say since their budget has been cut, we all have to go and buy more donuts from them next.
Yeah.
Coming Thursdays.
I just,
Go ahead.
not a big deal, but I think I might have even brought it up last year. Would it make any sense just to do a 10-year lease with a 90-day cancellation or something, so the center knows it's always going to be available as long as we're leasing it from the county and as long as it's not being used from anyone else, just to simplify? It's not that it's a huge deal.
A couple options there, Director Hagelin. Obviously, we could, if we did a long-term lease like that, we could draft the leases such that we could review those internally and determine which tenants would be appropriate for having subleases through the Buildings and Grounds Department or the business office or the superintendent, or whoever. Surely we could redefine the terms. The lease that we have gives us full authority to do any sublease on that property from Crow Wing County. So surely, if we do a long-term lease, we could negotiate.
Maybe there's no benefit to having a long-term lease, but.
Director Thiese, this is my only meeting, so I want to bring this out. I know the county no longer wants to have this land. Why wouldn't they give it to the school district? We could use it. We partner with the community, like the center, that could continue. And it started as a poor farm. That's why the county owns it back in the 30s and 40s. That was the poor farm.
In the conversation that I had with the Crow Wing County Board of Directors at their Committee of the Whole meeting, which is their non-actionatory meeting that they have on Tuesdays, really the basis is that if we aren't going to have a substantial use out there, because we don't operate it as a farm anymore, right? Our egg program has diminished in size, unfortunately. As a farmer myself growing up, that's a little bit of pull on the heartstring there, but I wish there was more opportunities for egg, but we have the egg programs now at Brainerd High School. We have the classrooms there, we have the greenhouses at the high school. We don't get an opportunity to do the animal husbandry class as much as we probably did out there. I think the basis of what Crow Wing County is asking for is that if we don't have a vested long-term interest in that they would like to get that off of tax forfeit status and get that out into the tax rolls. Commissioner Coring made that point to us when we were at the Committee of the Whole meeting. Understandably, I mean, anytime, my previous life at Crow Wing County, anytime it was brought up that there was tax forfeit land, they're continually trying to get that out to adjoining property owners. Hey, are you interested in this sliver because it's non-conforming? You can't build a house on it. Would you be interested in buying it? Their land size gets bigger and they pay a little bit more tax, and that just that supports the county's operation. And so in this instance here, that 80 acres is tax forfeit, or not. It's just sitting there as no owner, basically. It's tax forfeit. So that was their basis, is that they wanted to get it back into the tax roll if we didn't have a long-term vested interest. Obviously, since we've had a relationship with them for decades out there, probably from the 60s when it was a farm operation, they would be happy to work with us on a sale or transfer of that property. But if we aren't interested in it, then they would like to get it back out into the tax rolls.
Okay.
But we have options, so.
Okay, so any other questions? So I have a motion from Director Nystrom, and a second from Director Spear to renew the one-year lease agreement with the center at a cost of $2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Always nice to see you. Next up, we have the school calendar approval for the next 2 upcoming calendar years, or school calendar years. And that is, thank you, Director Murtha. Oh, you're already there. Thank you.
I'm getting faster in my old age.
You are. You're almost as fast as Marcy is.
Oh, I'm never that fast. What you have in front of you are the 23-24 and 24-25 proposed school calendars for your review. It's a sign of us getting back to normal. We're now doing 2 calendars at once, trying to give people the opportunity to plan in advance. Both of them reflect the current structure of 169 contact days with the same footprint for in-services that we had this year as we have last. Because of when Christmas and New Year's fall in the middle of the work week, in the 24-25 calendar, there'll be 2 full weeks of break. 23-24 would be a normal 8. When we built the calendar, we used one of the common assumptions that we've historically used in not bringing staff back for anything less than 3 days of work. So that reflects the structure and the makeup of the calendars.
So, oh, go ahead.
Move to approve the calendars as presented.
A second.
Discussion? Okay.
Yeah, the only thing just for clarity, I think we had this in notes somewhere, but as we look at that 24-25 holiday break, there's a logic behind that 2-week break. You kind of alluded to it, Director Murtha, as it relates to how the holidays fall in those 2 weeks, right smack in the middle of the week.
Correct.
And so as a result, you would have these weird, if you did it any other way, you would have 2-day chunks where kids are going to school for like 2 days.
Correct. And what you're going to find is you're going to have both staffing issues and attendance issues when you shorten the week underneath 3 days. People will plan and fulfill the commitment if they see it's a large block of time, but anytime we shorten that block of time, we run the risk of saying, oh, it's a short week. So we try as much as we can to make sure that we're preserving the instructional integrity of what we do by honoring the fact that that's just part of the reality.
Are we going to offer mental health support services for parents that have their kids for 2 weeks during the winter?
We do have wraparound care, and Fun and Friends is open.
Perfect, that'll work.
There we go.
I have a question too, and this is how we said snow days are no more, but I've been reading that some districts are going back to snow days because they are learning that distance learning is not working for those snow days. Any insight on that?
I'm actually well prepared to have this conversation, but I'm looking to the superintendent if she's going to green light me to have the conversation.
So to put it in context before I green light Director Murtha, so right now for the 22-23 school year and in school board policy, e-learning's in place.
Yes.
So any further discussion that would move away from e-learning as these calendars are adopted, we'd have to reflect and update policy and reflect. Again, putting it in context, everybody went e-learning, woohoo, right? And then COVID hit, and now people are like, e-learning. So there is getting mixed reviews. With pre-COVID, engagement was fairly high. Post-COVID, because there was so much screen and distance learning, engagement seems to be decreasing. And there's lots of complexities in the elementary level.
Particularly KN1.
Yeah.
So to answer your, so is that the green light?
Green light.
Okay. And Tom just hung his head because last time I got green light, we were here for an hour and 15 minutes. But I really jumped the yellow on that one. Okay, so there's pros and cons to making the change. There are implications for no learning days. We would need some flexibility, obviously, and it would affect in the 23 and 24 and the 24-25 calendars the President's Day, which historically was a day we used as a possible snow makeup day. If we go back to one of the older structures, it's currently not identified as that in the current calendars. We would need to either eliminate one in-service day or add a day at the end of the school years to do that. Again, these are all doable things, but those are some of the details. In the 23-24, we we would have to add June 3rd. This means that Friday, May 31st would be the last day of students, and students and staff would have to return on Monday. June 3rd is the half-day end-of-year checkout day that they've historically had. In the 24-25 calendar, it would be June 6th. This means a Thursday for June 5th, last day with students and staff would return Friday, June 6th as a half-day. So those are some of the details. Any of those options would return us to something along the historic practice that we used to have. We always carried 2 possible makeup days with the unfortunate possibility of just adding days at the end of the school year. The school board does have latitude with 169 school days in our calendar and the state requiring only 165 days of contact. You have the discretion to waive the requirement of a day or 2 or 3 or 4 if you so chose. Staying with e-learning days, this does keep things simple for Kinderfriend Day, for graduation. Staying with e-learning days does involve probable low attendance participation with no real possible consequences for the absences when people don't engage on the e-learning days. There's an immense, particularly at the elementary level, there's an immense amount of background heavy lifting in August to prepare for that. What we have to do is we have to create what's called the e-learning packets every year, because there are always going to be a population that don't have access to the technology that you would do an e-learning day with, so you have to have something for them as well. It's a significant time investment for mitosas, particularly when they're really gearing up for the start of school year. So there are pros and cons to either one. I think it comes down to, where do you think you're going to get the best learning? Are you going to get better learning by adding days that were thought to be at holidays? Or are you going to have better learning through distance learning? I have my opinions on that, but I think that's ultimately what it boils down to, because what we want to do is keep the instructional quality as our center focus, and we make that decision.
Well, this is your recommendation, though, to stay with the e-learning.
My recommendation is to finish the year as we've publicized the year, and I recommend, the administrative recommendation, not Tim's, is to stay with the proposed calendars as they are. We can have a deeper conversation about e-learning days anytime really between now and the end of this school year, and communicate out any changes and go through policy. There is some board action that would be required. We do have specific board policy that creates e-learning days with the consent and agreement of the state of Minnesota, so there's an unwrapping process that would have to occur. Not complicated, doable, but it's one hoop to hop through.
And refresh my memory, the 169?
Yep.
We recently shaved a couple off of what we were doing, didn't we?
I still think we're at 169 right now. I think 165. So 165, I know, is the statutory requirement.
I think we were at 172 at one.
Yeah,
because we
our
added a couple of
contract is
in-service days, right?
173, and we're down to 169.
Okay, I was just trying to make.
And I remember when I brought that to the board on the creation of the in-service days, you know, what I did point out was we've got a lot of room to maneuver if we wanted to within that time frame.
Well, I think that supports your case for evaluating it as we go through this school year and see what the impact is, because we've got some wiggle room in there if we need it to.
I do think this year would give us good data. My hope is not a lot of data.
Yeah, I think
it's a
it's
just
something
in
we
case
need
thing.
to relook at. I didn't mean to.
I would think, honestly, I believe that for all the stakeholders that I've worked with, whether it's some of the teachers, whether it's the T&L staff and the principals and the admin teams, there's concern about the quality of the learning experience systemically. What do you have to do the day after to regroup and refocus? Now, that's true of a snow day. So it comes down to the question of which one is less damage control, less get us back on time fast. That's what we need to do.
So we're fine to approve this and relook at future calendars. And
Yes,
I won't, but some
Tim,
of you
if we
can.
do relook at it, is there an opportunity to get feedback from educators in some way? I just don't, I feel like we're not well equipped to make that decision just based on what I know.
The process for creating the calendar, currently with Superintendent Hahn, goes through meet and confer with Teachers Union. In years past, it's usually been the superintendent and members of the executive board for the Teachers Union, plus some representatives of the admin team. So there's always a teacher voice in the creation of that calendar. I would assume that there would be a conversation either through meet and confer or through some substructure with the superintendent, with the unions on that.
I think specific, I think you're asking Director Spear about just e-learning itself. We can definitely get that feedback. We can engage with our teaching staff to say, what is the engagement level? What is the attendance level? What does that look like? Because again, e-learning's in place this year. So if we have that, we can gather that and then post just being able to engage. It's very difficult with parents as well. They get the notice at about 5 o'clock in the morning at the latest. They're arranging care, we have kind of that delayed start so then everybody can get engaged. What impact is that having as well? So we could get that feedback.
That'd be great. That'd be really helpful.
Okay. So we do have a motion from Director Hagelin and a second from Director Spear to approve these calendars as presented. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And there'll be more discussion about e-learning days in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Marcy Lord is here to talk about some new general obligation bonds.
Yes, so in your board packet is the resolution. So in the September board meeting, you guys passed a resolution that was for additional $2.6 million based on some changes that we had received word from Ellers we could do. And I asked the question, should we be combining these so that we can save on issuance costs and just finish out our projects? And so also in the document is our updated estimate on our bond sales and then what's remaining. So if you look at that document, way to the right is remaining estimated bond issuance, and there is facilities maintenance bonds and capital facility bonds. So this resolution basically modifies the resolution that was approved in September to include these issuances as well. And then once those get issued, Blueprint 181 should be, like, we could put a bow on all the issuances, which is pretty exciting. So I'm looking for your approval on that resolution so that we can finalize and finish. And I want to note that it's up to, so Ellers is going to be running scenarios on the taxes and the debt schedules just to make sure that we are aligning with that $7 per month. And based on that, we'll be able to figure out what the amounts should be.
So I think the original maturity was 2043, correct? It was a 25-year bond. And so this would be fit into that.
Correct.
So it would be paid off by 2043.
Correct.
Okay.
And pending the Ellers conclusions, right, it still fits within the tax window, so it's negligible to well, there's no tax impact.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to get that in layman's terms.
Yes.
I should say there's no the tax impact that we had.
It was already pre-approved.
Got it.
Right? It's what the voters already approved to
Yes.
pay. We're not changing that.
Exactly.
I move for the approval of the resolution stating the intention of the school board to issue general obligation school building, facilities maintenance, and capital facilities bond series 2023A in aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,925,000 and taking other actions with respect thereto.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first from Director Blacklands, a second from Director Spear. Further discussion?
Could you tell us exactly where, they probably know, I'm the rusty one here. Where's this money going to go?
So these would be projects that, we already have set. So WESB has deferred maintenance, the capital facilities.
Okay.
We'll also be looking at WESB for that now. So basically, WESB is.
Just to finish off some things that couldn't be finished off.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay. Roll call?
Tom Hagelin.
Yes.
Ruth Nelson.
Yes.
Bob Nystrom.
Yes.
Sarah Spear.
Yes.
Charles Blackland.
Yes.
Kevin Boyle.
Yes.
So nice to have a full board up here today. all those names. Okay, thanks. So that was approved, and we'll go on to a purchase agreement for the BHS construction house.
So there was a notice published based on last month's board meeting. We received one bid, and it qualified. It had the $5,000 escrow. Move forward with that bidder, and before you is the purchase agreement for $100,001, which was above the minimum, which is great. And we're excited to have this wrapped up so then that buyer can, we can figure out a closing date and go from there. It was kind of surprising that there's only one, because we did receive, several interested buyers, but when it came down to putting pen to paper, there was only one, so.
This is great what you're getting. I mean, I remember the first year I was on the board in 2002, I think it was 30 or 35,000. So it's really come, because it's still the same basic building, I believe.
Right, correct. Correct.
Interesting, odd question, I guess. Do they have a collection of where these houses have gone and what they look like once they're?
I bet if I asked Brian Boardwell, he would have an idea of where they went.
It'd be interesting to see.
Are you thinking like a tour of homes?
The very first house is on the corner of 3 Mile Road and Highway 18, in the
Oh, wow.
northeast corner.
Oh, really? Let's see.
Be fun to kind of map them out.
Yeah, it would be.
Just know that these are Brainerd Public School students built these homes and they're located at. Yeah, a tour of homes would be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the awarding of a purchase agreement contract for the BHS construction house to the highest bidder as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Boyles. Any further discussion? What a great program for our kids.
And I don't think I mentioned last time with the listing agreement, but Brad Watson is donating his, part of his fee to the robotics program, as he has in the past.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you to Mr. Watson. Yeah. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Dr. Heidi Hahn talking about our collaborative services worker.
I have the next 3 in a row, and I think they'll be fairly quick. I gave lengthy explanation in the memo just about what's happening with our collaborative service. So the Crow Wing County Family Collaborative Service, or Crow Wing County Family Collaborative organization with Crow Wing, they've been operating well over 25 years with our collaborative service workers. So there's local time study dollars, and we actually apply for additional ADSIS funding that help offset that cost. In recent, they had gone to a 501c3, had an executive director. Some of the funding started to dry up, so really looking at what should be happening. So there's 3 school districts in Crow Wing County: Crosby, Pequot, Brainerd. Crosby has pulled out of that, and Pequot and Brainerd will be the only 2 remaining with the Crow Wing County Family Collaborative. What I'm presenting to you, which means is what used to happen is the Crow Wing County Family Collaborative used to contract with Sourcewell to have our collaborative workers in our buildings. With that change, now what happens is the school district has to have the contract with Sourcewell. So that's really what's happening, is the change in contract. That way everything stays cost neutral. Actually, there's a little bit of a cost savings because we're not paying the $37,000 fee over to the county. Our funding remains stable, so we'll be able to have collaborative workers maintain. These contracts are through June 30th, which gives us time to then look at how do we continue to adjust. But we really wanted to keep as least disruption in our schools and with the workers we have. The exciting news is, well, it wasn't exciting we had a collaborative worker in Crosby who was, of course, being cut at the high school because of their change in structure. Crow Wing County is using some of their ARPA funds to have that worker now get moved over to Brainerd High School. So Brainerd High School, starting January 1st, we'll have a collaborative worker working with students at the high school. And then as we go to rewrite our ATSIS grant, because it's due, it's a 2-year process every year, we'll start that in January to look at then redoing our funding structure. So that's a long, complicated way to say we're shifting contracts between county, back to school, and Sourcewell. But I'm asking you to approve that contract effective January 1st through June 30th. In that time, then we'll look at additional changes that need to occur.
I was the school board representative on this board for a long time, and just the work they do with our most at-risk families and kids is so important. So I'm excited that we have someone at the high school, and I hope we keep this program going forever. And I also wanted to say that since it is a 501(c), you can donate to them, and it's tax deductible.
Yes, it is.
So
They've
I
actually
know,
been doing some.
Becky Statham just sent out something about that. So donations are welcome for this program, and it's so needed in our area. So
And just so you know, they're, besides the immense support they provide to our students and families, really integral in the child protection team that sits with Crow Wing County. So I sit on the child protection team. The big radiothon to end child abuse is coming up, so that's coming. But our collaborative service workers really get involved, and they do the whole Brought Not Bruises. So that's the original group that started. So that fundraiser, they donate right back to the child protection team as well. So and they get to do all sorts of things to just rally around families throughout our community.
So I'll make the motion to approve the collaborative service workers contract for the rest of the year.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Ruth, I'd like to abstain if I could. It's a contract with Sourcewell.
Okay.
Thanks.
So one abstention. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. And one abstention. And it's approved. Next up is the policies.
So this is the second and final reading of revised policy 110, service animals. In that section, what we added was for therapy dogs, to have an access for them to come into school. There's a lot of mental health supports where they'd like to bring in a therapy dog to support our students. In that, what we added to this time is a registration form. Any owner that's bringing in their therapy dog would have to register with the district to show that the animal is properly and currently vaccinated, licensed by the city, depending on if their city requires a license, Brainerd does, and covered by adequate liability insurance. So they'd complete that, we'd keep that on file. And then it would have to be the administrator of the building that would allow when that therapy animal could come, so they can give sufficient notice to students and families. So that has been added to the policy, so that's there now as well. It's been a long time. People have been asking for the therapy dogs to come back, so.
I'll move to approve the policy as
second and
presented.
final reading of revised policy number
I'll let him do this.
110.
In stereo.
I know.
Service animals as presented.
You can.
Second.
Okay, first from Director Blacklands, the second from Director Nystrom. Further discussion?
I'm quite excited about this.
Yes.
Animals and able to
They used to
exhibit
have their
unconditional love.
staff photo was on the wall right next to the rest of the faculty sometimes. I think that was Nisswa, you had your?
Yeah, we had them in the yearbook.
It was in the yearbook, okay. They become an integral part, so. But it's very clear that it's dogs, so. Okay, moving on to the next one. Oh,
All in
sorry.
favor, say aye.
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 Oh, I
Those
just thought we were
opposed,
already
same
there.
sign. I don't think we did that.
Okay.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Sorry, Director Nelson. Next on the agenda is the approval of the second and final reading of the revised MSBA Policy 210, which is conflict of interest school board members, for school board members. This, if you remember, the one change was if you're on the school board, yet you're working in some capacity where this typically impacts some of our school board members as coaching. There was and then with your stipend, an income limit of $8,000 that was changed through MSBA to be up to $20,000. So that was the one change in the policy that was presented last board meeting.
I will move to approve the second and final reading of revised MSBA Policy 210, Conflict of Interest, School Board Members as presented.
Second. It's my last meeting, so I've got
Get it in there, Bob.
Yeah.
We have a first from Director Boyles, a second from Director Nystrom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay, and Angie Bennett is up for the second and final reading of Policy 504.
Good evening. I have three up as well. The first one, as Chair Chair had mentioned was the second and final reading of the student dress and appearance policy. If you can recall, we did add some language in regard to body art. So that is the main change in the policy, and no further changes have been made since last presented.
And no further comments, questions from
Nope.
anyone? I would move to approve the second final reading of revised MSBA policy 504, student dress and appearance as presented.
Second.
We have a first from Director Hagel and a second from Director Nystrom. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next two on the agenda are policy 424 license status and 409 employee publications, instructional materials, inventions, and creations. This is on a 3-year review cycle. In review of MSBA recommendations, there are no changes to these policies. And they're still consistent with practice.
I will make the motion to approve these MSBA policies for the 3-year review as presented.
I'll second.
First from Director Nystrom and a second from Director Spear to approve policies 424 and 409, which are 3-year review with no changes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, and the final one is, I'll discuss, is last month we approved a motion to submit a resolution to the MSBA, through the MSBA regarding elections, so that we would not have to make another appointment for 1 month. But we like having you here, Mr. Nystrom.
Thank you.
Anyway, and so the MSBA board would like one of us to attend the meeting, which is scheduled down in the cities December 2nd through the 3rd. And it would be very simple just to present the resolution, which you saw last month. So I wanted to discuss who should go, and I was thinking it might be good to have someone go that's going to be on the board still next year.
And Chair Nelson, I don't know if you mentioned it, but they're also paying all the expenses.
Yes. So it's one night. It starts at 6 p.m. and it's done by noon on Saturday. It's a Friday night, Saturday. So, and that would leave,
Just one topic.
Who'd that leave?
you go to the whole meeting, the convention, and it's your
Director Boyles.
resolution.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Right. That, since
something to be
we-
said
we-
for being the last
we
person
did
standing.
Resolution.
Because I believe technically, Director Spear isn't on the board on
That's
December
true.
3rd.
Yeah.
She takes the month
Oh,
off.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's
But we
true.
did trade text earlier today with Director Nelson, and we worked out schedules, and I believe you had a conflict that
Yeah.
evening with another board that you're on, correct? So by default, going down to the city. If you approve it. Bob, is that okay?
I'm going to make the motion to approve School Board Member Kevin Boyles to attend the 2022 MSBA Delegate Assembly meeting, which is scheduled for December 2nd and 3rd.
Oh, okay, and I'll second it. But anyway, because I'm very happy that you will go. So one other thing, there is a 1.5-hour online meeting. Either tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, or
Then there's
I'll make a motion that Director Blacklands attend.
a 65-page
Hurry up and get to the
manual
voting.
and a
any other discussion?
Just to say that I'll already be down there. Anybody wants to meet me at Murray's that evening in Minneapolis. It's on Hennepin, so.
Okay.
Are you buying?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Director Boyles.
That was funny.
And finally, we're on to informational, the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation. Superintendent Hahn?
Yes, so exciting news from the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation. They just this week, did anybody sit on the best practice grant review? Innovation grant? Okay, well, I know they awarded over $35,000 to our staff for innovation grant. They actually had more requests than dollars that they had to award, so that's very exciting. Some very innovative things will be happening. They have bingo coming up December 5th at the American Legion. It's online, so that's another fundraiser that they're doing. And then, of course, they're preparing for their big event, which is always the first Saturday in February, Farm Fresh, Planting the Seeds of Generosity. So lots happening, but again, when you look at all those dollars going right back into our classrooms, they just had a big cycle, and they decided at the beginning of this year to do 2 grant cycles, so one in the fall and one in the spring. So really exciting. And I always put this out there, over $143,000 in scholarships awarded last year. So again, all that energy and effort is going directly back to our students. That's what I have from the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation. And when we reorganize in January, one lucky board member will be appointed to take my speaking spot for the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation and get actively involved. So, because that was Janice Shogren. But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Equity Task Force.
All right, I'll do the Equity Task Force. Before I get there, one quick comment is that very few times in a person's career, especially in education, but even in life, are we able to see and sit back and look at some of the fruit of your labors. And I'm excited for tonight because we have 3 individuals here that really did a large part in terms of vision and wisdom and courage to be able to initiate efforts to begin the Equity Task Force and to put into motion pieces to be able to support and care for all students in our school district. And but I want to point that out with especially while Director Nystrom is here, Director Nelson, and then also Director Hagelin, that you all represent a golden era of our school district and the board, and not just with things like the Equity Task Force, but also with the building referendum and so many other things. And so when I was coming to the board meeting tonight, believe it or not, I was quite excited to see the 3 of you and to be able to be here and sit on a board where you 3 are a part of. And it really feels like for a night, it's and not to over dramatize it or to be inappropriate in any way, but it's like having the Beatles reassemble for a night. So, but I mean that with the utmost respect for all the work you all have done. But with that being said, the Equity Task Force is again some of that fruit that you've all bared as part of your hard work and again your courage, wisdom, and leadership. With that being said, I'll move on to the update. We, as a Equity Task Force, met on November 8th. And we had our own little a moment to be able to see some of the fruit of our efforts, or the group's efforts. And that was, we were again able to bring new students onto that, to that committee. And we were able to welcome 4 that day. And it was quite exciting and mesmerizing to sit and listen to these students as they shared their thoughts, their experiences and their ideas in these type of areas and how it impacts them, and to be able to hear them and listen to them. And it was just a wonderful time. And just like when I get done mowing the lawn on a Saturday night, I'm able to step back and look at what I've accomplished as a yard of cut grass. We were able to sit there and listen to students share with us their thoughts on how things are going within our school district. So it was a fun time. And I really wanted to share that with the 3 of you as well. It was a wonderful opportunity. And they shared some thoughts on the areas of behavior supports and social emotional interventions as well. And then the task force also had covered literature and data in those areas also as a part of that board meeting and as part of the pre-work for that board, or that, not board meeting, I'm sorry, the task force meeting as well. And that was a lion's share of the afternoon, but it was a wonderful time to be able to sit and listen to the students and hear where they're at. And then also then we said our next meeting is going to be December 13th.
Thank you, Charles. Business Services Report.
In your board packet is the enrollment report, and I'm just going to note we were up 8 from last month. Looking at the historical, it was a 4-year average of being down 3.5, so kind of a positive there. And then also I took a projection based on last year, and where we're sitting this month compared to last year, we'd be up 41 from budget if we continue as we had last year. So just a update there. And then the financial report, the items I wanted to note are the ones that are over 1% when comparing to prior year. Food service, community ed, we're getting back in. You guys are, I might as well hit repeat on what I've said. We're just getting more comparable to our pre-COVID years, which is why there's differences there. And then building construction is different, but that will get updated with the budget revision when we look at an updated cash draw schedule. And then debt differences is just because of a debt payment structure. If we pay principal earlier than we had last year. And then the OPEB trust is down because of premium cancellation timing. Any questions?
Any concerns about supplies and materials in the general fund? That was kind of high.
Honestly, we heard that a lot last year. Like there was concerns about laminators, but I haven't heard very much this year.
Okay.
So.
Because, last year we were only at 24%. We're already at 40. So.
Right.
Okay. Schools are getting their stuff sooner.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Marcy?
Thank you.
Good news on the enrollment. Superintendent's report.
A few things. First, where's Ryan? Ryan needs to wave. So all this, if you look at, we now have a 2x4 and cameras and wiring. So just all the extra effort that it took to now get us to our new space of Forest View Middle School for these next few months. And thanks to, we had wonderful help just getting us set up. So a shout out to Forest View and I think Mr. Anderson, there he is, just helping us coordinate. So appreciate that a great deal. The one date I neglected to get on to the future meetings or just future celebrations. So November 29th will be the Lowell celebration. So we have Principal Johnson right there. It's going to be pretty exciting looking at a parade with a fire truck and some things just to really celebrate with our kids. Out in Washington, D.C. last week with teacher Erin Carlgard and Kathy as they accepted that award. So very exciting. Jack Freeman sitting back here and he's still upright and he hasn't fallen asleep. That's good. As well as Principal Rusk and Mr. Cottsmith and Mr. Merseth. When we talk about evening events, there's 55 coming up for the winter season. So just a shout out to them and just Jack, I know you're in all places and it's showing the effort of our coaches and the investment that they're making. Just look at the outcomes that are happening. The celebrations, we had to amend the agenda I don't know how many times as we kept getting more good news. Fran is sitting here, so Fran, if you want to wave. And she's still awake because she's up usually by about 4 as we start transportation. And just the amazing work that's been happening. Reichert's is working their tails off. I feel like every time they get a new driver trained and licensed, another one moves south or falls ill. So again, they're just working really, really hard and adapting. So we apologize for our inconvenience to our families because we've had to cancel on short notice because of some of those things, but really trying to spread that out. And that's thanks to Fran and LC and Kever over at Reichert's just working their tails off. I'm really grateful. So I'm just looking around and I know, but our admin team, so if you think here we are approaching Thanksgiving and all the things that have happened and it's just, you guys are still upright and it's lots of hours and it's lots of energy and it's lots of effort. If you're ever bored, come sit in any office and you'll hear the radio, and I can guarantee you, particularly at the middle school and high school, our administration never sits down once during the day. You are always, true, Derek's like, it's true. Always responding to students that may need something or staff or just things that are happening to just do the things you can, so I'm so appreciative. We had amazing Veterans Day programs throughout the district, and I just, speaking with the community members and our veterans, they were so appreciative to have that respect and that honor and the community that wrapped their arms around them, and that's thanks to the leadership. I'm looking at Amy Jordan. Amy Jordan, principal of Lincoln, has been a teacher, a para, a secretary, and I think more times than not, a bus driver, a van driver, just trying to meet the needs of our students. Again, when you look at staffing issues. So I am just so grateful for everything that they're doing. And I just think if you ever get a chance to, if you really want to know what's happening inside a building, come see them and just spend 10 minutes chasing them around the building and you'll find out pretty quickly about the amazing things happening. So just thought grateful because Thanksgiving's coming, so these are the people I'm super, super grateful for. And then last, I had the opportunity to, I called every single candidate that ran for school board, and it was so good to speak. I'm very grateful to you that are here this evening that are coming onto the team, and Mike, who's going to continue to lean in and be engaged. But every single one of our candidates just said that they learned so much through the process. You know, some learned that things were more political than they thought, as they had to speak to members of our community, but they are very focused on making great things happen for our kids. So I'm excited for Randy and Michelle and John and DJ to join our team, and I'm very grateful for Mike and our other candidates who all said, when I asked all of them, will you stay engaged, they said absolutely. Let us know how we can get involved. So I think that's just going to continue to make great things happen for our district. And I won't say goodbye yet, although I will. Bob, it's been great.
Oh.
It's nice to have you back for a meeting. But we'll wait to do some honor for Charles and Ruth and Tom when we get to our December meeting.
This is like when Chevy Chase hosts Saturday Night Live.
It is.
Wow.
That's true.
Except the cast likes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and it is kind of, I don't know, we're in a rhythm, and schools are exciting, but we're tired, but it's still so fun. It's so amazingly fun. And so I just appreciate the team that's in it for the long haul, every second, every hour. That's it for superintendent report.
Glad it's fun.
It is fun. If it wasn't fun, we wouldn't be doing it.
Yep. One other thing that wasn't on the future meetings is the ribbon cutting on 11/22, Lincoln Education Center.
She just did. Ruth just did.
Yeah. I can't remember, what time is it at?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. So we'll have that. So you can see future meetings here before, and it'll be new faces up here at our December 12th meeting. And we'll welcome our 2 new board members then, and then you guys will welcome the 2 new board members in January. So all exciting stuff happening at the district, and I think that's all of our meeting. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, first from Director Nystrom, second from Director Boyles. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
What happened to the donuts, or are they just a prop?
Oh, where'd they
You just
go?
use them as a prop to get us to say
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
and then.
I was wondering if you.
Forgot about the donuts. There are donuts here for anyone that wants a donut, right?
Almost everybody forgot about the donuts.